Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in, shall we? If you're a system administrator, a junior DBA, or, just the IT pro who got tapped to spin up an enterprise database, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going through the definitive, step-by-step blueprint for installing Oracle Database 19c Enterprise Edition on Oracle Linux 8. We are literally going to take what is usually a super stressful task and turn it into a totally smooth, predictable process.
So let's be honest for a second. Why is installing Oracle so notoriously difficult? I mean, if you've ever tried it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're staring at this intimidating terminal output, digging through incredibly dense documentation, and navigating a multi-step process that demands just absolute precision. Miss one little kernel parameter, or say set the wrong file permission, and boom, the whole thing comes crashing down. It's enough to overwhelm even really experienced sysadmins. But don't worry, because we actually have a secret weapon that instantly lowers the difficulty level.
You can think of this as the ultimate cheat code, the Oracle Database Pre-install 19c RPM package. This is a real game changer. When you run this package via your package manager, it automatically handles all the heavy lifting for you. It creates the Oracle user, sets up necessary OS groups like OInstall and DBA, configures your memory and networking settings, and even sets up the required resource limits. Seriously, it takes care of the absolute trickiest system configurations with just a single command.
To make this complex task totally manageable, we're going to build it like a house. 4 steps. 1. Preparing the OS. 2. Environment setup. 3. Software installation. And 4. Database creation.
Okay, phase 1. Preparing the OS, which is essentially pouring our concrete.
You simply cannot build a solid house on a weak foundation, right? So let's look at the exact sequence here. First, as the root user, you run that pre-install RPM we talked about via DNF install. Once that magical little package does its thing, your next step is creating the storage directory paths where the database will actually live, typically on mount points like /u01. Finally, you gotta hand over the keys to the newly created Oracle user. You do that by running the chown command to change the ownership of those storage directories to the Oracle user and the OInstall group, and then setting the permissions to 775.
Now, a really crucial concept to grasp right here is OFA, or Optimal Flexible Architecture. Basically, this is Oracle's recommended standard directory structure, so instead of just throwing files anywhere, you use a standardized path. Following the OFA standard makes managing your database, applying patches, and upgrading down the road much, much easier.
All right, moving right along to phase 2, environment setup. This is where we frame the house. So we have our foundation. The OS is ready, and now we need to configure the specific environment for the software to permanently live in. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding Oracle_home. This is the literal house for our database engine. It's the specific directory path where the Oracle database software binaries are extracted and installed. But pay really close attention to this, because with Oracle 19c, there's a major change from previous versions. The zip file itself is the Oracle home.
And that brings us to a pretty major Oracle quirk that you absolutely must remember. You don't just run the installer from your downloads folder. No way. First, you switch to the Oracle user. Second, you navigate directly into the Oracle_home directory you just created. And third, you unzip the massive 6.5 GB installation file directly inside that destination directory. The 19c installer performs way better and handles file permissions much more reliably when you run the unzip command from right inside its permanent home. Okay, before we actually run that installer, we have a little bit of Oracle Linux 8 housekeeping to do. First, as root, create the parent Aura inventory directory so the silent installer doesn't complain about it. Then, ensure your run installer script is executable using chmod +x. But here's the real pro tip for you. Oracle 19c was actually released before Oracle Linux 8. So to prevent the cluster verification utility from getting confused and blocking your install, you must export a specific fix variable. You set cv_assume_dist_id to OEL 8.2. This literally forces the installer to pretend it's on a slightly older OS version that it recognizes.
Which brings us to phase 3, software installation. Time to install the plumbing.
Our house is framed, the environment variables are all set, but before we lay down the actual software plumbing, let's just pause for a quick checkpoint. I want you to be totally secure before pulling the trigger here. First, is your Oracle_home fully owned by the Oracle user and OInstall group? Check. Because we're doing a silent install, is your display variable unset? Check. And finally, do you have at least 10 gigabytes of free space on your U01 drive? If you can check all 3 of those boxes, you are officially ready to proceed.
So here is the exact command to execute a silent, software-only installation. We are completely bypassing the need for a graphical interface by using a response file. The command is /runinstaller, flag silent, flag ignore prec, flag response file, and then pointing to your customized.rsp file. Actually, that ignore prec flag, that's a fantastic safety net, just in case there are minor swap or kernel warnings that would otherwise completely halt your silent install.
Let's walk through what this actual workflow looks like. You run that silent installer command, and it's going to return your terminal prompt fairly quickly. But do not be fooled, it is still running in the background. You absolutely must monitor the installation log and wait patiently for the exact phrase, "Successfully set up software." Only after you see that success message do you switch back to the root user to execute the final orange root.sh and root.sh configuration scripts.
And finally, we reach phase 4, database creation, turning on the lights. The engine is installed, the plumbing works, and now we get to breathe life into the instance and actually create the database itself. To do this, we use the DBCA, which is the Database Configuration Assistant. This is the absolute gold standard utility for ensuring that your Oracle database features are configured exactly right. While you could technically write a manual database creation script from scratch, DBCA is by far the safest and most efficient route. And just like the software installer, you can run DBCA via a graphical interface or directly from the terminal in silent mode.
Now, when you fire up DBCA for 19C, you face a critical architectural decision. You have to choose between a non-CDB architecture and a container database, or CDB architecture. Listen closely here. 19C is the very last version to support the old non-CDB method. So it is highly recommended to check Create as Container Database and add at least one pluggable database. Choosing the multi-tenant CDB architecture is the future-proof path that will save you massive headaches down the road, for sure. So the fast-track steps for database creation look a bit like this. Launch DBCA, select your database template model, and execute the instance creation. Using a template database is actually a brilliant pro tip. If you have an existing database, say one supporting a really complex SAP application, you can extract a template right from it. That template ensures that specific initialization parameters, table space sizing, and character sets are ported over exactly to your new environment. It's basically a copy-paste for your complex settings.
I want to leave you all with this thought from our sources today. Since the engine is installed, you're standing at the starting line for the actual database creation. Mastering this chronological blueprint, preparing the OS, setting the environment, installing the software silently, and using DBCA really takes the mystery out of Oracle 19C. By following these structured steps, you unlock the immense power of enterprise data without tearing your hair out. But now that you possess the blueprint to easily tame this enterprise giant, the real question is, what massive, mission-critical application are you going to build on top of it? Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and we will see you next time.